Hi everyone, Julie here from Crafty Frog. Just coming to do a little demo on how to make scrunchies. So, pretty easy to put together, and I'm going to show you the difference in making a thick scrunchie and a thin scrunchie. It's really about just the width of your fabric. So, if you want to make a nice full-bodied scrunchie like this one, what you need is a piece of fabric that is about 7.5 centimeters wide. That is half the width of your fabric. So if you've got an odd piece of scrap, half of your width of your fabric should be about 55 centimeters. So you want 7.5 by 55 centimeters. If you want a narrower scrunchie like this one, what you need is your 55 centimeters by about 5 centimeters. So that's a thinner scrunchie. How to put them together is all the same theory. So what you need to do is get your piece of fabric, fold it in half, and sew a really thin seam down the open edge. So what you end up with is a tube that looks like this, and hopefully you can see the sewn line on the tube. What you want to do then is grab a safety pin and pop it in the seam part of your tube and do it up. Then what we want to do is turn your tube inside out using the pin. So pop the pin back through your tube. This is probably the hardest bit of it all, just getting it all in the right spot. Pop the pin through and fold it over the end so it starts pulling through. Then continue with that process until your pin comes out the other end of your piece of fabric. So you've got your tube the right way out, and then you take your pin off and put it to one side. Then what you want to do is cut your piece of elastic so that your piece of elastic goes around your wrist and laps over a little bit, and then you have a piece of elastic. You don't want really soft elastic, you want nice hard firm elastic that will keep its shape. With your tube, if you've got any white bits on the end from your selvage, just chop them off and pop that in the scrap bin. What you want to do then is put your pin in your elastic, do up your pin, have a regular sewing pin nearby, and you want to thread your elastic through your tube. But when you start, what you want to do is, as your tail is coming towards the end of your tube, you want to pop a pin in that so that it doesn't pull all the way through. So your pin goes through, hold your elastic in place, and then you continue to thread your elastic through your tube. Then you take your safety pin off, holding the end, grab your other end of your elastic, move your pin from being in your scrunchie to just being in the elastic. Now at this point you'll take it over to your sewing machine and you'll zigzag across that so that it all joins together and stays together. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be hidden by your material. So this is one I did earlier. Obviously it's not terribly perfect, but it's solid and the elastic's not going to go anywhere. What you want to do after that is grab a needle with some sewing thread. You want to then turn one of your ends so it's folded under by probably about 1/2 centimetre, doesn't have to be exact. It's much easier on a wider scrunchie. So one edge is folded, one edge you've got a raw edge. What you want to do then is tuck the raw edge into the folded edge. Now you may need to have a stick or something to just give it a bit of a poke. It can be a crochet hook, it can be a knitting needle, it can be a pencil, doesn't matter what it is, just to give it a bit of a shove so it's inside the folded edge. What you want to do then is grab your sewing thread with a knot in the end, start along the edge here and pop the sewing thread up through there so that your knot can get hidden inside your seam. Then all you want to do is just tack gently around the folded edge so that your two edges are neat and tidy. Doesn't matter if your thread doesn't match exactly. When you get to the middle, I tend to just put the sewing thread through the middle and then turn it over and work from the other side. Because there's so many folds happening in your fabric, it's not going to matter if it's not perfect. Then you bring it up to here. I then tie a knot as close as you can get to the fabric, and then a second one just so that it's not going to come loose. Then I just put the needle back in and bring it up through anywhere in the tube and cut it off. And there you go, you have a scrunchie. As I said before, different size scrunchies are about the width of your fabric. There's loads of different options and different sizes depending upon what fabric you've got on hand. But there we go, scrunchies made.